This is from Justin to Kane, a podcast where Mike Robertson and Bob LaRue watch one critically acclaimed film and one terrible film and talk about how they are the same.
Everybody, and welcome to From Justin to Kane. I'm Mike.
And I'm Bob.
And we're back to our regular format. We had a couple of format busting episodes.
Yes, but we're back.
So we busted the episode format a little bit, but we're back to, the same old BS.
Yes. The same old BS that we always do.
Yeah.
So we're comparing two movies. What are they, Mike?
So, two movies. Very recent films, actually.
Yes.
2020's Nomadland is the good movie, which recently, breaking news, just won the Oscar for Best Picture, as well as Best Director, Best Actor, and probably other things.
No, just the three.
Okay. Best crapping in a bucket by an actor, or choice bucket crapping. At the Teen Choice Awards?
The scene with the Prius, the lady, she's like, I drive a Prius, so you need this bucket. So many bucket riffs. I loved it.
Yeah, that was a great scene.
Yeah. Well, probably the best scene in the whole
Probably
film.
the best scene, yeah, because it was doo-doo based.
We love doo-doo.
We love it over here, yeah. We
do love
the
doo-doo.
canines eat it up. Literally, dogs often do, yeah.
My dog has, and I've seen it, and it's very upsetting. And then days later, he'll be licking my face, and I'll be like, wait a minute. This is the same tongue that laps up his own shit.
Yeah.
Dang it, Odie. Get away from me, you
friggin' Odie.
Duty mouth. Odie eats his own poo. Anyways.
The other movie is 2021's Mortal Kombat, which is considered the bad movie. Although, supposedly the reviews are mixed, but they're leaning towards bad. And if you watch the movie, let's be real here. It's bad.
It wasn't great, but
wasn't great.
Controversial hot take. You and me, we're lukewarm on Nomadland. That's it. It's just basically kind of boring. And, there wasn't a great sense of closure by the end of the film, which I felt ripped off a little bit, especially since I watched it win a bunch of Oscars before I saw the film.
Same.
So, but it's not a bad film. Like, that's not what I'm saying.
I'm gonna call BS on that other statement you said. You said you watched it win a bunch of Oscars. You dipped out before the Oscars were over.
I was aware.
You were bored.
You're right.
You said you were too bored and you left to watch a Marvel movie.
I watched Iron Man 2 instead of watching the Oscars, but I was aware of the victories and read about it.
Yeah, okay.
I will say I love the cinematography of Nomadland. The process is very interesting. I think it's a good subject to talk about, but overall, boring.
It was Herzoggian. Can I say that?
It was Herzoggian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not Zoggian. Zogian.
I watched a Herzog movie called Family Love Inc. or something like that.
What's that about?
Family Love LLC, I think. It is a movie very similar to Nomadland. Maybe a little bit more interesting and engaging, at least to me, at least. It takes place in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Werner is shooting it and directing it. And he is shooting it with a camera with a dirty lens for half of the film. And it is basically about this culture of people in Japan who you can rent to be your family members.
Really?
Yeah, so it's kind of like escort service, but for family. So it's about these people who pretend to be like your dad at your wedding or do all these other things if you have family issues or you have family members who are dead or something.
Oh.
But it's similar to Nomadland in that it is a fictional film that kind of follows fictional characters, but there's also real people who do the thing in the movie. So it's like quasi-documentary, fictional film with a little bit of, and like a lot of handheld cinematography. Except his kind of looks like it was shot on a potato camera, whereas, the Nomadland was shot on like probably Arri cameras.
Yeah, I was on the Alexa Mini, and
Yeah.
it looks just like it's like a pretty film, but they didn't really light anything, and you
No.
can kind of tell.
Yeah, you
But
can really
it's
tell.
still good looking.
Yeah, a lot of the choices that were made seem to be like, oh, this will give us a little bit of light in the dark. Like when she's
Yeah.
walking around carrying that sparkler.
Oh, the sparkler.
Yeah,
Yes,
and it's
yes,
like, well,
yes.
this will give us a little bit of light on her face as she walks around in the dark.
You saw right through,
Yeah,
right
there's a
through the
couple of
magic
moments.
of filmmaking.
Yeah, where it's like this scene exists purely just to put light on this person's face.
Yeah, and I mean, just a gratuitous amount of magic hour shots.
Oh, I know. Yeah, so much magic hour
Yeah.
shot.
Just everything looks good at magic hour. Let's make it happen, people.
But also, that must have been so stressful to shoot the entire film at like kind of a magic hour time because you're like, well, we only have
they
one.
shot it over 4 months.
Oh, okay, so they
So I
basically
bet you
shot for
some
an
days
hour
were
a
like
day.
an hour.
Yeah,
Yeah, basically. And then they wouldn't shoot for like 3 weeks, and they just like noodle around.
yeah.
And apparently, so like, I mean, I'm not talking about the movie yet, but Frances McDormand started out living in the van,
Yes.
and then she quickly realized that being actually exhausted was way worse than pretending to be exhausted, and then lived in a hotel after
Yeah.
that.
Pretty
So
insane.
She was method for a while.
I
Which
mean,
is kind of nutty.
it is wild. There's like weird politics about this movie, in that like she is like a rich Hollywood person who is pretending to be poor, and then
Yes.
is like, I'm gonna be poor like method, and then be like, you know what, I can't hack being like method poor, so I'm just gonna stay in a hotel, and then pretend to be like afflicted by having no money and having people in my family die around me and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, all the other people in the movie are actual people who live in this stuff. And it's like such a weird dynamic of,
Well, what's interesting, Mike, almost none of them knew she was an actress.
so what was going on then? What did they agree to?
So they agreed. They were like making a film, but they thought Frances McDormand was just one of them,
Oh,
but from somewhere else. I don't know if they got paid. I imagine they did.
I would
The
hope
film
they
was
did.
made for $5 million.
Mhm.
Yeah, I hope they were paid.
Yeah. If everybody got paid like even $50,000 or something for their time, or a couple of $1,000, that would go a really long way for those people.
Oh yeah, big time, big time.
So, seems
It is weird, I guess. Similarly to like how, documentary can be very intrusive, especially when it's about like socioeconomics.
Mhm.
And you kind of just plunge people who are just by virtue affluent comparatively, and they are plunged into a new like socioeconomic place, and they're just kind of observing things and pointing cameras at other people's poverty.
Yeah.
There is something off-putting about that if you look at it a certain way. And
Yeah.
you could argue this film did that.
I saw some people describe this movie as misery porn.
Oh.
Because there's like that one scene near the end where Frances McDormand is talking to, I think his name is Joe or Bill or Bob or Bo or Jill or, anyway.
Which one?
The bearded guy.
Oh, Bob. That's Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like telling some story about her character's fake made up life. And then he's just like, yeah, I relate to that. My son killed himself and I can't even bring myself to say the words and stuff. And then she just kind of nods her head along with it. Cause like, what else are you supposed to say to something like that?
So get this, Mike. After they stopped rolling on that scene, he went up to her and said, "Thank you so much for sharing with me. That was very brave of you." Because he thought it was real.
Do they know that this is a movie now? They must have been what did they think
Well,
they were? Was this a documentary they think they were making?
No, they knew it was a film, but it was like, steeped in realism. And they thought that she was just a nomad, like a van life nomad.
Little
And
did
then
they know.
they shot that scene, and he thought it was all true. And then she explained to him that it wasn't, and he was very surprised.
Was he upset?
It didn't say yes or no. It neither confirmed nor denied.
This movie is very close to Borat in a way.
Yeah, it is,
Like
isn't it?
Nomadland and Borat are very similar films.
They have shared DNA for sure.
Yeah, like because so many people didn't know Borat was fake. Frances
Mhm.
McDormand is like the Borat of Nomadland.
Yeah, but way less funny.
Way less funny. Yeah, she like craps in a bucket once for the lulz.
Yeah.
And then, after that, is just being sad and staring wistfully at the sun as it sets, like literally every 5 minutes.
This episode is turning into us ragging on the Oscar winner for Best Picture.
Yeah, well, they shouldn't have picked the worst movie to win. But also, I can't think of a better movie to win.
No, I think as far as the other nominees go, this is the one to have won.
To have won, yeah. This was the most obvious one. Like, if I was doing an Oscar pool, which I didn't, I should have, because I would have got some money, it seems like, based on what my guesses were. Yeah, I would have guessed this one would have won, which, let's just break it down real quick. If we can remember, we're not going to do any research. Just let's whatever we remember, which one should have won. So Nomadland, I say it probably could have won, and it did. But I don't think it should have won.
But what should have won? I literally couldn't rattle off the nominees to save my life.
I don't think Promising Young Woman should have won. I didn't think that movie was very good.
Right. And Borat was nominated, actually.
It wasn't nominated for Best Picture, though. It was nominated for like a script or something.
Chicago 7. Trial of Chicago 7.
Yeah.
That was nominated, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Was it? Did you see it?
Great movie. Yeah, it's really good.
Best movie of the year, ?
I'd say it's a lot snappier than Nomadland and equally as sort of poignant, if not more poignant.
I saw Judas and the Black Messiah. I thought that was pretty good. Not like great. It was kind of a pretty typical biopic.
I haven't seen it yet.
It kind of sanitized a lot of the politics. But it was still like well done. It's interesting.
Right.
Mank.
Oh no, Mank should not have won.
Yeah, not Mank. The Father. You didn't see The Father, did you?
No, I didn't. Did you?
I did. It was actually really good.
I heard it was really good.
I actually might put that as my top pick, maybe. Just
really?
Because, well, it was kind of
What's it about?
It's about a guy who's got dementia, but the whole movie's from his perspective, so you get to see. It's kind of like someone described it as like if Christopher Nolan made a movie about dementia.
Right.
Because it's from his perspective, and so just like reality and time is being constantly like screwed around with because the old guy doesn't know who is who sometimes, and so the same character will be played by a different actor at every scene because he doesn't recognize them, and he'll be confused. So it is a lot of the same bit over and over again. That being, who the hell are you? I'm old.
Yeah.
Did you steal my watch? Like that's the whole movie for 2 hours. But well done. Also pretty daring, I would say, in terms of like representing time in reality in a movie like this.
Okay.
But it was based on a play, and it was clearly they just filmed a play.
So, but you think that could have won Best Picture?
It probably could have, and maybe it should have, because Nomadland I was a little bit soft on when I watched it.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I thought, I didn't think the documentary / the fiction / nonfiction, I didn't think that really worked. In fact, it almost kind of like actively made the movie worse.
That's so interesting because that's like Chloe Zhao, who made the film. That's like her whole thing.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
From what I've read. So wait, so when she was making this movie at the same time she's making Marvel's Eternals. So are there like non-actor superheroes in Eternals also?
Here's hoping.
Yeah, I would love it if she found some real superheroes and they're just kind of hanging out in the background and they don't know that they're in a Marvel movie.
That would be crazy.
That would be awesome.
That's funny because I'm literally watching all the Marvel movies in the timeline order as we speak. Had to postpone this recording because I was watching Winter Soldier.
Selfish.
I am a bad friend, but I'm family. Google family. So you got to stick with me.
So are you how far are you in the Marvel saga?
So we've done Iron Man 2. I think Thor is the next one.
Okay.
And then Avengers, Iron Man 3, and now Captain Marvel's in there. That's the second movie, Captain Marvel. And then we just did Winter Soldier, which is probably number 6 or 7. And there's 11 to go.
Crikey.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies, man.
We'll have to do a Marvel-sode, I guess, once you finish. And you can talk about it. Maybe we'll do it in the backyard like we did last year after you did our rom-com Get all your
yeah.
rom-coms. Might be fun.
And then you can quiz me and you'll realize I don't pay attention to anything I watch. And I'll be like, I don't know.
Well, also, to be fair, Marvel movies, when you watch them, don't make any sense anyway.
No, it's true. Again, not dissimilar to Mortal Kombat. A lot of things happening, nothing happening. You know what I mean?
Well, I felt that Mortal Kombat was like a Marvel movie, or like they were trying to make it like Marvel or something like that. Just like because Kano was constantly like breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
He'd see Raiden and he'd be like, "What's up, Gandalf?" Like that's like something you expect Iron Man to say to Doctor Strange.
Very like self-aware.
Yeah. You know this thing that you audience members really like? Well, we're not taking it seriously.
And then he turned out to be a bad guy. Who knew? I saw it coming, but who knew?
Exactly.
Well, shit. Talk about Mortal Kombat a little bit.
Okay, I'll talk about Mortal Kombat, yeah. A little bit of a background on Mortal Kombat, the video game. So a little bit of lore off the top. The movie kind of explores the Mortal Kombat tournament, or it sets up the Mortal Kombat tournament, I'll say. It doesn't really actually have a tournament in it. Mortal Kombat, the video game series, is all about a tournament where various multiverses or realms, kind of representing the different planes of existence, all like kind of battle to figure out who's the best realm, I guess. So there's the Earth realm, which you can, assume is the one where all the Earth characters come from. And Raiden, the elder lightning god, protects Earth. Outworld is like a evil place. Zhao Kahn is like the guy who runs that. And then there's also another realm which is kind of like hell. So a little bit of background there.
Is that realm literally hell? Because that one guy who died in the beginning but didn't actually die, he said he was burning in hell, but then he learned to control it, and then he could breathe fire.
Yeah,
so is that in that realm?
He has a name. And it's Hanzo Hasashi / Scorpion.
Okay, we'll say Scorpion because I'm basic like that.
Yeah.
Did he literally go to hell, or did he go to the underworld thing?
One can assume that he went to the nether realm because it's like hell in this story.
Okay, interesting.
It is interesting when characters say the word hell in movies that are like sci-fi movies, because it basically means what we all think it means, like in Star Wars where they say go to hell or something like that. It means that in Star Wars there's hell.
Well, there's the belief in heaven and hell and an afterlife, which it says a lot. But you could like, it'd be fascinating to dissect sort of Western film and really realize that there's like a Christianity underbelly to so many films that maybe appear to be like have no religion whatsoever, or like atheistic or agnostic, but in fact it's like, no, there's very casual cues alluding to the fact that even in this narrative there is a God and there is a heaven and a hell.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is kind of interesting, even in like a sci-fi series or whatever, where it's like, oh, technology is advanced and we're literally traveling the galaxies.
Yeah, it is.
It's like there's still heaven, there's still hell.
I think it just points to people who write these things that they're like a little bit lazy, or they're not thinking about it that much.
Yeah.
They're just,
it's also ingrained
like, go to
in
hell,
so many
and
people.
yeah, it's like a thing you say, but you don't realize it by saying that. You're indicating to the audience that, Jar Jar could potentially go to hell.
I hope that never happens.
Me too. He doesn't deserve it.
I love Jar Jar. We love Jar Jar on From Justin and Kane.
We're Jar Jar stands for sure.
Jar Jar stands, yes.
I can't wait to watch The Phantom Menace for the pod.
Oh, yeah, it's coming up.
It's coming up
sometime.
So back to Mortal Kombat story stuff.
Yes.
So this movie features characters from across the video game franchise upon which it's based. So this movie has all the favorites: Liu Kang, Kano, Sub-Zero, Sonya Blade, Kung Lao from like Mortal Kombat 2, I think. It follows a new character named Cole Young, who, spoiler alert, is Scorpion's descendant. And there's some deep cuts also with a K, deep cuts. There's characters named Nitara and Rico and Cabal who are from like some of the later games. So if you love Mortal Kombat and you've played all of the games, you will see some characters name drop that you recognize. This is the third Mortal Kombat movie that's been made, but it is like a reboot. There was a first Mortal Kombat movie made by Paul W.S. Anderson, not PTA, but PWSA. And
Interesting. Confusing.
yeah, so he made like the Resident Evil series. He's married to Mila Jovovich. Anyway, and he recently made Monster Hunter into a movie, and he also did Event Horizon, which is actually a good movie, I would say.
Great movie. Yeah.
So he made the first Mortal Kombat movie, which is actually a lot of fun. Does a really good job of like adapting a video game into a movie.
Can I just say this,
Yes.
Mike? First similarity, both films adapted from pre-existing IP from another medium.
Nice.
So,
Very good.
book, film, Nomadland, video game, film, Mortal Kombat.
Great. Mortal Kombat Annihilation was a sequel that came out in 1997. It apparently really sucked. I remember seeing it and thinking it was bad. So it killed the franchise in some way, I guess. I'm not sure if it made any money, but they stopped making movies. Also, Mortal Kombat as an IP kind of like lost its luster. And like the 90s era of video games, also like a lot of the movies that kind of came out of that. Yeah, people stopped really making movies about those kind of games. This movie was released during the pandemic. So it came out in the theaters last month, April 8th. And it came out.
Really?
Yeah. And it came out on HBO Max also at the same time. So it was simultaneously streaming. And they've been trying to make a sequel to this or a reboot of this movie for like 20 odd years since like 2001 or something like that. They've been just constantly just trying to remake this thing. But and then eventually they started writing a script again and they got funding and they said, you know what, 2021 is the time for Mortal Kombat to come back to the theaters. They decided to make this movie with a R rating, which actually kind of makes sense for the video game, I think, because it's a super violent video game. It's weird to make a movie that's PG. And like everybody who likes the video game as an adult now, I would say. No, but I don't think kids are like loving Mortal Kombat the same way they did in the 90s.
No, and one thing that worked for the film was like they used violence the exact same way the video game did, and it was effective. It was like fun and gross. You know what I mean? Like you play the game and somebody gets ripped in half or whatever, and you're like, oh, hell yeah. Or they just get destroyed, and it's cool to see that in the film.
Yeah, exactly. So also the movie was going to be NC-17 because of the violence, but they managed to get it down. So that's kind of interesting.
Nice.
And
that is.
They filmed this film, I think, in 2019 in Australia at Adelaide Studios. Adelaide? So
Adelaide Studios.
It was filmed in Australia. I don't know if that was the justification for Kano being a Australian character, because he's not an Aussie in the video games.
Oh, really?
No.
I was wondering about that. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and supposedly the one of the writers thought of this movie as the first in a trilogy, so it's kind of a planned trilogy. And this first film is pre-tournament, the second movie is the tournament, and then the third film is post-tournament, which doesn't make any sense to me why they would do it that way, because I assume everybody would be dead after the tournament, so there'd be only so many characters you can show. And then also, why are they fighting if there's no tournament?
I really hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, me too.
I hope the buck stops right now with this movie.
Yeah, I agree. That is actually, I'm going to point out a similarity right there.
What?
Both movies kind of feature plotless meandering. So you kind of think that something is going to happen, and then nothing ever does. Like, you think there's going to be a tournament. If you don't know anything about this movie, you're like, yeah, I can't wait till they get to the tournament. And then they never have the tournament. Yeah. Similarly in Nomadland, you think that something is going to happen, and she just kind of like sits in her car, takes a dump in a bucket, stays in a rich person's house, and then it's like, you know what? I want to be poor.
Well, and interestingly, I think both films possess protagonists searching for something that they're unaware of. Like, they don't know what it is they're looking for. Because Frances McDormand's character is like in search of like closure and like emotional clarity and a peace, but her approach is like very meandering and inefficient. And I would dare say the main character of Mortal Kombat is in search of like his power, but he doesn't know what that power is. It's just going to happen. So he's just kind of blindly moving through emotions until it does happen.
Mm-hmm. Also,
and let's be honest, they were dumping in buckets in that cave.
That's what I was going to say. That was one of the similarities I have for the two films was they were probably pooping in buckets or something like that because, they're rarely in a house with a toilet in the movie.
Yeah, no plumbing in both films.
Yeah, well, that was a thought that this podcast project made me think about. And I mean, it goes back to one of our previous episodes, our sub pod or side pod. Where did they poop or when did they poop? Whatever we called it.
Yes. Yeah.
Like when I was watching Mortal Kombat, because I had already seen Nomadland and had thought about the bucket pooping.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple of times during Mortal Kombat where I was like, where and when do these characters poop? Like Shang Tsung, the bad guy, like the big baddie who's kind of in charge of the tournament and just is trying to get everybody killed before the tournament for some reason, he's got to poop sometime. Yes. He's a scary guy, but he's still got to poop. Goro's got to poop. Does he poop like 4 logs,
Yeah, great question. These are really burning questions.
Yeah.
I think also like in both films, you see like an ensemble of characters and you just wonder to yourself, why are you there specifically?
Mm-hmm.
Nomadland, like there's several different sort of trailer parks or like national parks where everyone's parked and it's like, why are you here? And also like, why are you living in a van?
Yeah.
And then in Mortal Kombat, they're like training in that cave. Why?
Because they
why does it have to be that cave? And like, why does the bad guy with all of his goons, they have that meeting on that like rocky ridge and then the guy with 4 arms walks in?
Yeah.
Why are they there of all places? Like, why not somewhere else more convenient?
Well, you've clearly never been to like the Nether Realm.
No, I haven't.
No.
I currently am not allowed to travel. So,
oh, sorry, no. That's the Outworld. The Nether Realm is hell. We discussed.
Oh, I have been to the Nether Realm. I've been to hell. To the Nether Realm and back.
Also, speaking of the Nether Realm, Scorpion, this isn't really a spoiler because it happens in the first like 5 minutes. He dies right at the beginning. And then it goes to hell. But he's still able to like exist and participate, I guess, probably in the Mortal Kombat tournament, maybe. But we'll see. But he's dead to society and to everybody else. But also, not unlike the Nomads, they're kind of dead to society. And also kind of existing between 2 worlds. So in the Mortal Kombat movie, they're kind of existing between the many, like the Nether or the Outworld and the Earth realm. And then in Nomadland, they kind of exist in I guess, the van realm and the house realm.
Yeah, they are like realms, though. They're like shockingly different.
Yeah. To the point where she goes to a house and then is like, no, not for me. I don't want to. She can't sleep on a bed, like a regular bed. She's so used to just sleeping in a crappy van. And
her buddy ends up wanting to live in a house. Yeah, Dave.
Yeah.
He's like with his son. That's his real son, too, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's his actual son, which is kind of interesting. But I was going to say, just speaking of locale, both films really like utilize rocky terrain and just exploring it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Lots of sunlit landscapes.
Sunlit, rocky, sort of not quite desert, more like Arizona, I assume, rocky terrain.
Well, there's characters living unconventional lives like amongst these rocky landscapes. And they're kind of nomads themselves, like in Mortal Kombat. Like they're forming bonds with like a new family, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So anything else about Mortal Kombat?
Oh, well, I mean, a little background on the video game.
Sure. Yeah.
So it came out they started developing it in 1991. I think it came out in 92 or 93. But it started out just 4 people, Ed Boon and John Tobias. Were like the 2 main guys and kind of weirdly rock stars in the video game world. Like I remember being a kid and I knew those guys' names.
Really?
Yeah.
How?
Because I read video game magazines all the time and they always talked about these 2 guys.
You read video game magazines?
I had subscriptions to many video game magazines. I read so many magazines as a kid. Magazines were a thing. I had so many magazines.
Yeah, I bet you did.
I mean, this podcast in the last month has really dated me. Just like I used to read magazines. I lived in a time before the internet. I used to get albums from Columbia Record Club.
The only reason I'm doing this podcast is to just sort of put you in corners where you have to age yourself. I'm like, the only way you can get out of here is by explaining how old you are. And then slowly but surely, I'm breaking you down.
Back to Mortal Kombat, though. So the video game company Midway, which was like a huge heavy hitter of the video game arcade world in the 80s, they were going to make a video game of the 92 film Universal Soldier, starring none other than Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I love that guy, yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
Who starred in Street Fighter, the movie, based on a video game.
Well, yeah, that's a whole other kind of fascinating part of this story, in a way, because they were going to make a digitized version of Van Damme for this game that became Mortal Kombat, but it's going to be Universal Soldier. But so they were going to have a digitized Van Damme, but they were going to make it like grittier, like Bloodsport, I guess. Eventually, their license kind of ran out or fell through, so they couldn't use the Universal Soldier or Bloodsport license. So they're just like, you know what? Let's just make our own characters. So they made Mortal Kombat, and one of the first characters, Johnny Cage, was kind of supposed to be a parody of Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, really?
So that's kind of fun. And Johnny Cage isn't featured in the Mortal Kombat movie we watched, but he is kind of teased. And as I was watching the movie,
he's featured in the end.
He's teased as going to be in the second movie, I guess. But the whole time I was watching it, I'm also like, is this Cole Young character, who is a new character devised for the Mortal Kombat movie? He's not in the video games at all. Is this guy going to be Johnny Cage? And then it turns out it wasn't him. He's Scorpion's like grandson or something.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I guess in a way that's a similarity to Nomadland, in that it's like a main character who kind of seems misplaced amongst other authentic characters. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like Frances McDormand's character is a fake character amongst real, authentic people. Kind of cool there. There's a little similarity there.
Pretty nifty.
Just dropping similarities as we go. Also, how does this feel in for you, Bob? Just like format change.
I like it.
Throw in similarities as it comes. You know.
I like it. It's fun. It's freeform. It's more conversational, less categorized.
Yeah, a little bit more loosey-goosey.
Yeah, super into it. It.
They eventually made a Street Fighter movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme playing Guile, and then they made a game of the movie, so it's called Street Fighter the Movie, the Game. So it's a game based on a movie, based on a game. And it's developed by a different company. So Capcom, the company that originally made Street Fighter, didn't make Street Fighter the Movie, the game. It was a different company, but it used digitized characters, not unlike Mortal Kombat. So this Jean-Claude Van Damme in a video game thing did eventually happen. It just kind of happened in a really roundabout way. And the Street Fighter video game, or the Street Fighter the Movie, the game, is a terrible, terrible video game. Whereas Mortal Kombat, the original ones really hold up, I think.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
So that kind of happened. But also, speaking of Street Fighter, the Mortal Kombat, the video game, wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Street Fighter 2, which became like a runaway success in the arcades. So Midway was like, you know what? Let's do our own fighting game to compete with Mortal Kombat. And that was a gambit that actually paid off, because
Mortal Kombat, or a gamble?
A gamble. Is it not both? Can I not say both?
What does gambit mean?
I thought it was a similar situation. In chess, I Googled it. It's a calculated move. It's in chess, it's when a player risks one or more pawns to gain advantage in position. So maybe it doesn't fully apply here.
Is that the only definition?
There's a couple.
Well, gambit's like all possibilities, right?
Well, it means a calculated move. Anyway, it doesn't
But what
matter.
about the phrase we've run the gambit of options or whatever? Like people say that.
You say run
they?
The gamut?
Gambit.
No, it's run the gamut. Gamut.
Oh,
wow.
Okay. What a dum-dum. Run the gamut. What does gamut mean?
Gamut is an entire range or series.
Oh, makes much more sense.
It's like
I've never heard of the word gambit being
used. A gamut is like a musical notes, like a series of notes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, you run the gamut.
Not the gambit.
No.
For all you listeners at home.
But you can run the gambit if you are playing chess, I guess.
So that word is only appropriate within the context of chess?
No, you can use it in other scenarios.
Like Gambit can be used in any sort of situation where you need to use a strategic move.
Yeah.
That is risky.
It's interesting because the X-Men character Gambit, he deals with cards. So, but Gambit is like a chess thing. So he should be a chess-based character, but he's like a saucy Cajun character who has cards. So I guess there's a chance involved still, but it's not the same. But also he'd be a boring character if he was like, it'd be so weird if he was like a character from New Orleans. And, but he also played chess all the time. His chess-based superpower.
That would be weird, yes.
Anyway, so Mortal Kombat was made because of Street Fighter 2 success. Also, the gamble or gambit or gamut, if you will, to use digitized sprites, which is kind of what they were originally going to do with the Jean-Claude Van Damme thing, really paid off too because it was like such a cool looking thing to see in 1992 or 93 whenever it came out. So people were just like so blown away by the graphics. I remember playing Mortal Kombat in the arcades. Very, very exciting, very mind-blowing.
Yes.
Yeah. Even on the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, it was awesome. Anyway, not too much more about Mortal Kombat. The name has the iconic spelling with a K, and that was as a result of them being like, they had come up with a whole bunch of different names based on martial arts stuff. I think at one point it was just called Combat with a C, and then somebody was like, what if we spell it with a K? And the rest is history. Or herstory, because they had a hard time copywriting the word combat with a C. So they're like, well, let's just change it to a K and maybe we can do it. And then Mortal Kombat stuck because it sounded really good.
Interesting. Okay.
Although it is a Mortal Kombat tournament, but like Scorpion's allowed to be there. I mean, he's mortal in that he died, but he's able to fight still. So is he immortal?
Well, can't mortal be used within the context of like it's life or death?
Yes.
Like not just like titling somebody as like a mortal being, but it can be used within the context of like this. The stakes are life or death.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't know. I didn't know what gamut was, so maybe I'm not the authority on language anymore for this podcast.
Yeah, a lot of questions about the title Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, no kidding.
Got to say that Mortal Kombat tournament. Seems like there's a lot of specific rules to like the world of Mortal Kombat and that there's like different realms fighting against each other. Different people from different places can compete in the tournament if they have like a little tattoo on their arm and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a
birthmark.
It's like a subculture that with their own society of rules, not unlike Nomadland.
Ooh, look at you go.
Yeah.
I'm snapping for that one. That was a smooth one.
Yeah, so tell us about the Nomadland that I just mentioned. Tell us about the titular land of nomads.
Nomadland, released in 2020, was directed and written by Chloe Zhao, who, as we've already mentioned, won Best Picture and Best Director. And then Frances McDormand, who is the star of the film, won Best Leading Actress in a film.
Well, she's also one of the first people in history, I think, which seems weird, to win Best Actor for a movie that she produced herself or worked on as a producer.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That is a weird detail.
I would have assumed that would have happened millions of times already.
So Chloe Zhao is only the fourth person and first woman to be nominated for Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Picture, and Best Film Editing. The only others are the Coen brothers, which is hilarious because Frances McDormand is married to one of them.
Yeah.
They won it for No Country for Old Men, and Alfonso Cuarón for Gravity, I believe. So that's kind of interesting. And I think Chloe Zhao is the first woman of color to win Best Director.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of nutty to think about.
I watched the question and answer period after the Oscars where the press people were talking to her.
Mm-hmm.
It was grim as hell because literally everybody was like, how does it feel to be making history as being the first woman of color?
Yeah. And they're insinuating
just like
certain
patting themselves on the back for making history for something that's in a way just kind of arbitrary and pointless.
Yeah, a bit weird. So it's based off of a book written by Jessica Bruder called Nomadland, Surviving America in the 21st Century. And so what happened was this author, Jessica Bruder, to write the book, she packed herself up in a van and she like moved around and lived the nomad life for like 4 or 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume she pooed in a bucket.
As one does.
As one does to be a researcher for a novel that's also mostly like it's like a nonfiction book.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so there's like a main character that's a real person that was cast as the real person, but then Frances McDormand became attached to the project, and then she wanted to portray that person, and then they realized it wasn't really working, and that her character should just be mostly like Frances McDormand. So it's gone through a few iterations, but the book is nonfiction. The film is fiction, but with heavy nonfiction vibes in that all of the supporting characters are just playing themselves.
Yeah.
Including Poo Bucket Lady, who gives the lovely lecture on how to poo in a bucket.
Also, there's that character Swanky, or is what her name is? Is it Swanky? She's the one who does that monologue off the top, how she's like, I'm dying of cancer, I'm going to Alaska.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Because she's coughing. And then they have like a little fire funeral for her.
She's real.
She's a real person. Did she die in the movie for real, or did she pretend to die?
No, I think she pretended to die.
So did she tell everybody just like, hey, guess what? Swanky died, and everybody was sad, and then they had a funeral for her, and then in the corner, she was like, tricked them.
That's...
Because like, how else are you going to get that scene but to lie to those real people?
That's a really good question. Let me look it up, because Charlene Swanky is an actress known for Nomadland 2020. Is she still alive? It doesn't say she's deceased.
But she died in the movie. Was she aware that she died in the movie?
She was in the audience at the 93rd Oscars.
Okay.
So she definitely didn't die, because she was at the Oscars with Frances McDormand and Chloe Zhao.
And did she actually have cancer like she does in the movie?
That, I don't know. That's a really good question. I honestly don't know. I feel like the internet doesn't have that answer, because those details really remove the magic of the film.
But the magic is not removed from the film, that being Magic Hour, of which it is constantly Magic Hour.
There's lots.
Yeah.
So you know what's interesting? So Frances McDormand's character name is Fern.
Yes.
But David Strathern, who is an actor, his name is Dave. Like they just gave him his name.
Yeah.
Let me just rattle this off for you. So Linda May plays Linda, Gay DeForest plays Gay, Patricia Greer plays Patty, Angela Reyes plays Angela, Carl R. Hughes plays Carl, Douglas G. Soul plays Doug, Ryan Aquino plays Ryan, Teresa Buchanan plays Teresa, Carrie Lynn McDermott Wilder plays Carrie, Brandy Wilbur plays Brandy, Mackenzie Etcheverry plays Mackenzie, Bob Wells plays Bob, Annette Webb plays Annette, Rachel Bannon plays Rachel, Charlene Swanky.
This reminds me of when we just listed all the Faygo flavors.
I'm just trying to make a point. Anyways, they literally every single person plays themselves. I feel like David Strathern, they just gave him his own name, but he did play a character.
Was there call sheets for the movie?
I don't know. That wasn't verified.
Like, did they call these? We're like, okay, we're gonna do the scene with Swanky, or did they just be like, the call sheet is they just give Frances McDormand a call sheet and some like very, very loose sides, and then says, meet us in this parking lot at 6 a.m, and then we'll just film with whatever kind of random nomads we find.
I think that's probably what happened, or something of that sort of approach, because how else could they do it?
Well, yeah, unless
but
like
then
they got everybody on board and we're like, Swanky, here's a call sheet for the Wednesday. Meet us in this parking lot at 7. You're going to tell us a story about how you have cancer for like a couple hours, and then you can leave to go to Alaska.
She probably does actually have cancer, or had it, or something, or some sort of illness, because every character is real. Like, they're all actual people. I don't know. It gets a bit dicey and weird, doesn't it?
I assumed that the stories that the characters were telling were real, because they just kind of seemed like monologues that stuck out and were only like tangentially related to what Fern was talking about. Fern would start
Yeah.
saying something, and then someone would be like, "Oh, by the way, I have this long ass story to tell you." And then Fern would just like nod, and then it's like, "Oh, okay, this is a chance to have some documentary stuff."
Is that a similarity?
How so?
Is that almost a similarity to Mortal Kombat? Because I feel like once they get to the like temple, the like sand cave zone, the guy with the metal hat and the fire guy,
Kung Lao and
they
Liu
really
Kang.
like to, yes, those two. They really like to like pontificate to
Yes.
the noobs for long periods of time,
Yeah,
and maybe equally as boring.
yeah.
And like I don't know. There's something there.
It's
there.
like, well, yeah, it's like a character, like an ensemble with one strange new person in the center, right? And that
Yes.
person just kind of facilitates the plot so that the ensemble can just monologue at you about their existence.
Yeah, and their story, their
Mhm.
life. Oh, I guess another similarity, since we're there, is it's a ramshackle group of people living outside of society.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Anywho, so Empire, Nevada. So there's like that little preamble at the beginning talking about Empire, Nevada, and how it shut down and it lost its zip code.
Yeah.
And so what happened was Empire, Nevada was a town owned by U.S. Gypsum, which is a mining company,
Right. Sheetrock
and
they
it shut
made.
down. It shut down in I forget what year, and it let everyone live there for 5 months while they got their shit together in all the homes, because literally the mining company owned the town, like it owned all the real estate and the buildings. Then it kicked everyone out. It lost its zip code, and it basically was deleted from the map, and it was no longer municipality.
Wow.
And it left a lot of people high and dry, you know. And it's a real place. I mean, heck, that just reinforces the fact that this film is just like drenched in realism, man.
Yeah.
Drenched.
That's wild.
And another interesting thing is Frances McDormand, I don't know about duration, but she had all the jobs that are depicted in the film, like with Amazon, in the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
at the park when they're like scrubbing the toilets and stuff.
Yeah.
All of that, she like did all that for real for quite a long time. And I think that's how they were able to like film it in such a candid way.
Interesting. So people there have never seen a Coen Brothers movie? People in those
No.
towns? They've never seen
No, never.
Dark Man, where she plays the romantic lead?
They had no idea who she was.
They've never seen Three Billboards?
Nope.
I'm just going to list every movie that I can think of that she's in.
Everyone's like, yeah, I really liked From Justin to Kane early on, but it really just fell into listing stuff by the end. All they would do is list things.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about Chloe Zhao before we go any further, though. So she is a Chinese film director, screenwriter, and producer. She hasn't made a lot of stuff, but she's, made a big impact. So she made several short films, but her first feature was Songs My Brothers Taught Me, which did really well in sort of the indie circle, and so did The Rider. And then her third film is Nomadland, which is pretty cool. And they're all very similar in terms of aesthetic and like subject matter. They all have to do with rural America. They all have to do with sort of like the cowboy nomadic lifestyle in modern time. So like I think she's very fascinated by like people who are lost in time living in modern America, but in the rural areas.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But also, I read that she comes from a rich family from China.
Oh, really?
And that, like, she went to NYU, which is like not a cheap film school. So it is
NYU's like up there, probably top 5 most expensive schools.
Yeah, so it's interesting that she is kind of like looking at rural people as like these kind of zoo animals. It's like, well, very interesting.
Yeah.
I'll make a documentary about these like zoo animal people, like these poor rurals. Which I guess in Alberta we have our own kind of film industry based around that too.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Everything made here is about rural life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's cheap to
some
film
way.
in rural areas, and like it's more beautiful to film there than in the dumpy Albertan cities.
It's true. It's true. The one of which we live in.
Yeah.
So another interesting thing about Chloe Zhao is So the Golden Globes, I think she won Best Director, and everyone's
Uh-huh.
freaking out. And in China, she it was like totally viral. People were losing it. But then folks on the internet found old interviews of her criticizing China and the political situation. And so everyone basically 180'd on her and thought she was a terrible person and were criticizing her and her success and the fact that she was like not like really a loyal Chinese person anymore because she was living in the United States, making American films, and was criticizing China.
Right.
So like all of her love totally evaporated, which is kind of interesting. And shows how fickle, the love can be.
Just billions of people turning on you.
Yeah. Like she's like hated in China.
That's wild.
For shit she said a long time ago, which is also like probably factual and appropriate to say, but
yeah,
it just hurts because it attacks the sort of integrity of your culture or like the country you're living in that you need to be loyal to. So it gets a little dicey and a little weird, but she's really like, she hasn't made a lot of stuff and she's super, super successful. And yes, you're right. She's in post-production on Eternals. I don't even know what the hell that is. It's a Marvel film.
A Marvel movie. Yeah, it's part of the Marvel universe, cinematic
and
universe.
Angelina Jolie's in it.
Yeah, and she was making it while she was making Nomadland.
Wow, really?
Well, while she was filming Nomadland, she was doing pre-production for Eternals every once in a while.
Listen to this cast. We got Angelina Jolie.
Oh, another
Salma
list.
Hayek,
Here it goes.
Richard Madden, Kit Harington, Kumail Nanjiani.
Yeah, that's right. Kumail's in it, right?
Brian Tyree Henry, who's like killing it.
Yeah.
Crazy. They got a crazy list here.
It's wild, this world we live in, this movie world we live in, where it's like, hey, you're a really good actor, or you're like a great director. Do you want to make this comic book thing? And then everybody's like, wow, I can't believe, like, when a good indie movie comes out, people are like, oh, that movie was so great. Maybe she'll get to direct a Marvel movie. Like, I see that every once in a while on the internet now.
Well, and that's the issue is you make like $2 to $5 million movies, and then you make $150 million movie.
Yeah, $150 million.
Oh God, $150 million movie.
Yeah,
whatever.
It's so weird.
Fix it in post.
Well,
anyways, it's just kind of funky, and like then you have the debacles like with Fantastic Four or whatever, where you have real train wreck, massive tentpole films that just plummet.
Well, actually, Fantastic Four, you could call it a Trank wreck.
A what?
Well, the guy's name was Josh Trank. He was like an indie director.
Oh, right.
Who got to make Fantastic Four, and then it was a famous bomb.
Yeah,
and
it's just interesting. Or like even the Russo brothers.
Yeah. Yeah, they were community directors. They directed on the TV show Community.
A famously broke television show.
Yeah.
And then they directed several Marvel films. It just doesn't make any sense.
The worst ones, I'll say.
Yes. Well, Winter Soldier I just watched, and it is not a great film. And they directed it and wrote it.
Any other fun facts?
Ooh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot why we were here or what we were doing. Yeah, so most of the co-stars played themselves, and they had no idea Frances McDormand was an actress. There's a story about Bob in that scene where they're both like telling harrowing stories from their lives, and Bob thought it was real and took Frances aside to thank her, and she's like, no, that was just make-believe. I'm an actor. I was just playing with you.
Yeah. Thanks for playing with me.
And he's like, what? I felt so many emotions. Yeah, so it's filmed in 7 states over 4 months. And so you're saying they were filming the Marvel movie in this time?
No, they weren't filming it. She was doing pre-production for it.
Oh, interesting.
So she may have even...
Good they had a sporadic schedule.
She may have just been driving around in her little bus or whatever, and then occasionally got an email saying, hey, should we cast, Kumail as this guy?
And and she was like,
she's
hell
like,
yeah.
Sure, yeah. And then Kumail's like, all right, got to start getting ripped, I guess.
And he's jacked now.
He's jacked.
Scary jacked.
He won't let you forget that he's jacked also.
No, he does mention it often.
That's what happens when theater people get jacked. Or like people like actors.
When tubby stand-ups become super jacked movie stars, they're like, you guys notice anything different about me? It's like when somebody gets new glasses every week because they're really cheap on the internet now, and it's like, hey, notice anything different about me?
Yeah. Well, I mean, from the improv community that we exist in, whenever an improviser gets jacked, because they for whatever reason, their characters are always taking their shirts off in scenes.
Ugh, yeah. Ugh.
I mean, you're always
taking
your
my
shirts
shirt off
off
all the time.
Yeah, speaking of getting jacked, the character Jax sounds like jacked. He is ripped, but then also he gets like jacked in that his arms get ripped off, and then he gets cool, sweet, futuristic robot arms, which is like the big part of his character. The only part that's interesting about Jax is that his arms get ripped off, and then he gets new robot arms
that for some reason have to transform.
Yeah,
like
they're tiny.
They aren't
they're
just
tiny
like
little
that out
chicken
of the
arms.
box.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah, like it doesn't make any sense that he like has to get really upset and try and lift a heavy rock, and then they morph into really strong arms. Like that it's like, what? That's not how it works. You don't buy a microwave and the microwave doesn't look like a microwave until you like reach an emotional catharsis, and then all of a sudden it becomes a microwave. It's just a fucking microwave out of the box, god damn it. You plug that shit in and nuke some hot dogs like everyone else.
Great analogy.
I do what I can.
But anyway, Jax, so he gets this kind of an inexplicable surgery in the movie that, as you kind of pointed out, doesn't make any sense, right? In Nomadland, the character David also gets inexplicable surgery in that he has no money, but then he's like, he's in the ER, and then there's no mention in the movie about how like healthcare works when you're a van person. She goes to the hospital and he's like, oh yeah, he's got surgery. And then he just kind of like, is like, yeah, got surgery. And then they never really talk about it. One can assume that it kind of gets seeded towards him like living with his family and that he's got like a lot of money.
But there's never a scene where it's like, and thanks for staying with us, Mr. Strathern. Here is your invoice for the surgery and the 3 nights you had to stay in a bed. Yeah. And it is $98,000.
But why did they throw that scene in if they don't use it to explore anything about van life? It's just like, this guy got surgery and then he's out of the hospital and there's nothing said about it.
Ask Chloe. I think it was just an unnecessary moment of drama.
Okay.
It kind of felt like filler, to be honest with you, as did many moments.
I mean,
really ragging on this movie.
Lots of filler in Nomadland, but also lots of filler in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Because they're just kind of fighting just to kill time and kill each other, but mostly to kill time, it seems like.
Yeah. Both films have characters getting really, really, really cold.
Yes. Oh, good. Yes, very good.
Yeah.
Sub-zero temperatures in both movies.
Exactly. One might say Sub-Zero is in both films.
He is, yeah. He kind of makes a very subtle appearance in Nomadland. Just like putting his hand on the outside of a van just to make it cold in there.
And it's like, oh no, my poo froze in my bucket. They also, speaking of buckets, both films depict like very specific bucket scenes. Like most films don't even show a bucket once, but I will say the opening 10 minutes of Mortal Kombat, you see a bucket about 10 times.
Really?
Because the dad is getting water in a bucket.
You're right. Lots of buckets.
Before his family's frozen to death.
Yeah.
And then you see a bunch of poo buckets in Nomadland.
Yeah, wow.
Pretty good, huh?
That is pretty wild, yeah. Got a fun similarity between both movies. It's always magic hour in both films. And by that I mean in Nomadland, they seem to be always filming it magic hour in Nomadland. Mortal Kombat, characters develop powers as they fight more and stuff. Like after Sonya Blade kills Kano, spoiler alert. Then I said it after I spoiled it.
You always do.
Yeah. After she kills him, she gains the power to shoot like lasers out of her arms. So it's like magic hour for her, and everybody else already has powers. So it's like magic hour always.
Yes.
It's like, hey, it's magic hour. Let's do some cool special tricks.
I gotta ask you though. So she shoots that laser into that lady.
Yes.
And it goes right through her, but you can still see her spine. It didn't go through her spine.
That's part of the aesthetic of Mortal Kombat. You got to see the viscera of somebody like getting murdered.
You got to see the bones. Yeah. It's interesting. I'm like, oh, that laser is good enough to get through like flesh and organs, but not a little spine, a little baby spine.
And that
Kind of interesting. So I will say this: both films have characters affected by like a higher power or like a form of like fate. In that there's like the chosen warriors, and they have the birthmark or the branding of the Mortal Kombat logo.
yes,
And then they're destined to fight in a tournament. And in Nomadland, these people are affected by American socioeconomics
yes,
and have like drastic effects placed on their life that they have to deal with, and that's why a lot of them become nomads.
right.
Another thing too is both films kind of deal with prophecy, and I would say like the prophecy in Mortal Kombat is that this main character is destined to like fight and win.
Yes.
And defend Earth. And in Nomadland, the prophecy is the American dream, or rather that it is a lie,
Yeah.
a fallacy.
Very
and
good.
yet they've pursued it anyways, and then they realize it's a fallacy, and then they react accordingly and become van people.
Nice.
Yeah, so just some good nugs.
There's the ending for Nomadland I thought was interesting because, and this is a spoiler, I'm gonna do an advanced spoiler alert, not after the fact.
Wow.
But because she like basically runs away from living in that David's family's house, and then she just kind of gets back in her van, goes back and like drives off, and it's like I'm a nomad. So the movie seems to kind of dictate some sort of. The movie seems to suggest that she has some sort of belief in her own destiny, as like she's destined to be a nomad person. Like she wants that life, but also she can't live like a regular normal life. She has to live in the van.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of interesting that there's like this kind of idea of destiny or fate or whatever in Nomadland, where these people are. I mean, I guess. The American dream kind of forces people down, just as it promises them that they will be brought up, So I guess in a way, some people are just destined to be at the bottom, And the same thing with Mortal Kombat. People got little Mortal Kombat tattoos. It means they get to fight. That's destiny.
Yeah.
I was born with this tattoo of the logo from this video game. I better go to this other world and fight these random guys before the tournament starts.
Yeah, just everything happening before the tournament, and all they did was talk about the tournament, was just such sloppy screenwriting.
Well, also Shang Tsung is like, he's the guy who runs the tournament. Like, that's his party. It's his like fire festival, But then in this movie, he's like, you know what? Got to try and prevent this tournament that I'm organizing from happening.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah. It don't make no sense.
Geez. It really doesn't. Both films have a trailer park.
Yeah. Good.
So, because the blonde lady who shoots the purple laser, she like lives in a trailer.
She's got a name, and it's Sonya Blade.
Whatever. I couldn't tell you a single character name from that film, and I watched it 3 hours ago.
I have played dozens upon dozens upon dozens and dozens of hours of Mortal Kombat.
So hundreds of hours?
No, not quite 100.
Oh,
if I had to add them up, it probably wouldn't be 100.
5 dozens.
It'd be many dozens of hours for sure.
Right.
Like I had
60.
the Super Nintendo game. I played that a lot. And then we would often rent Mortal Kombat 2 through 4 through whatever the hell. So
through dozen.
So I think they're on 11 now.
Okay, almost a dozen. Both films also depict a main character making new friends.
Yes.
And like an ensemble gathering.
Yeah, and also like a character making new friends / a new family.
Yes.
Like finding family in like a chosen group of people that you kind of stumble ass backwards into.
Yes.
But then also assuming like a new personality in this new life, or a new kind of being a new person in this new life, like reinventing yourself. So like, for example, I mean, I think Nomadland is pretty obvious. I'm a van person now, and these are the rules I live by, and this is kind of who I am. Because society forced me to live this way. And in Mortal Kombat, Scorpion dies, goes to hell.
What?
Learns to train hell to like. benefit him.
Spoiler alert, everyone.
Spoiler alert. But up until then, his name is Hanzo Hasashi. And then he...
Hasashi.
Yeah, and when he comes back, he's like, by the way, my name is Scorpion now. I picked a cool name. My name is Scorpion. Just like when Sub-Zero, he had another name. I think it was Li Ban or something like that. And then he's like, guess what, guys? The name's Sub-Zero. I like to make things cold. It's my thing.
Yeah.
So Cole Young, the guy who is like the main character who wasn't in the video games, he may assume a new persona in the second film. Could be Scorpion 2. Lil Scorpion. BB Scorpion.
What, Scorpion the second?
Yeah. Scorpion Jr.
That'll be good. That'll be good.
I would love it if his name was Scorpion Jr.
Yeah, that'd be so nice. Not very scary or intimidating, but fun.
Yeah.
It's like a fun thing.
And Scorpion's catchphrase is "Get over here," and Scorpion Jr.'s catchphrase is "Please come over here, please."
It would be Scorpion Jr. would be "I'll come to you."
Yeah, just like a nice twist.
Yeah. Both films have a deceased spouse.
That's right. Yeah.
So Frances McDormand loses her hubby before the film starts, but not real.
No, definitely not real.
Bob.
Not one of the Coen brothers.
No, Joel, I think.
Yeah, Joel.
And then who becomes Hasashi, who becomes Scorpion, loses his wife.
That's right.
She becomes an icicle. She becomes Sub-Zero.
Yeah, that's right. She becomes a wifesicle.
A wifesicle, yeah. Wow, grim. I like it.
And then he goes over and like starts licking them. Strawberry.
Don't worry, I'll get you out of there. And then cut to his tongue is stuck to the ice and he can't pull it off.
And that's when Sub-Zero strikes. He just
chops your tongue off.
He makes your loved ones into like popsicles, and then you want to lick them because it smells like berries, and then he stabs you in the back, and then he's like, fatality. You got fatality, bro.
Yeah,
oh no.
Yeah. I like that. That's fun.
Yeah. And
like a giant popsicle. Oh, that's so fun. Like if his weapons were the two sticks you get in those twin popsicles, you got to break down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel me on that one?
I do. Yeah,
that'd be sick. Cool.
Two spines just going ripping like a popsicle. Yeah. Also, Sub-Zero using his powers on a poo bucket, making a fudgesicle. Go on.
Oh, nasty. Imagine what a terrible trick to be like, look, I made all these fudgesicles for you guys. And they're like, oh, Sub-Zero, we thought you were so mean, but you're actually so nice. Thanks for trying to repair this relationship. And then they eat a bunch of frozen poo. And he's like, gotcha.
I mean,
you just being Sub-Zero'd.
Well, in a way, Sub-Zero is a prankster. And then also in a way,
yes.
The director of Nomadland, Chloe Zhao, is a prankster also. Because she's pranking all these real people into thinking that the movie is a documentary and that Frances McDormand's a real person.
Yeah.
It's a real prank. This movie...
It's about as pranky as a prank can get.
Yeah, it's closer to like Jackass 3D than it is to like, I don't know, a regular movie. Because it's a big prank.
Yes. Prank. You've been punked.
At the closing party for Nomadland, she's just like, I just want to tell everybody, thanks for being in the movie. You've been pranked. You got Zhao.
Oh, that's great. And she's just holding two Oscars like, fuck you guys. Both films involve characters leaving family behind.
Good, yes.
So Frances McDormand leaves her family behind, especially after the house, like backyard barbecue. And she also, like, I guess you could say she left her husband behind because he's obviously buried somewhere, probably in Nevada.
Yes.
And then the main guy, what's his name? The main character of Mortal Kombat?
Cole Young.
Leaves his wife and kid behind to go train.
Yes.
And then eventually has to go back to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's another similarity.
Both movies feature, or like, the phrase "get over here" is like a theme of both movies, in that in Mortal Kombat, Scorpion says, "Get over here," and then he uses his hook to bring someone closer to him. Yeah, getting over there is what they're doing. And
I'll come to you.
Yeah, and that's what Scorpion Jr. says. Yeah, I'll come to you. Good stuff. And then in Nomadland, like the whole point of being a nomad is getting over there, just like nomading somewhere. It's like,
yes,
I'm gonna get over there, and then they drive their van.
One
slowly.
might say, get away from somewhere, get to somewhere.
Yeah,
you know I think this quote applies to both films.
Yeah,
wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Ain't that the truth? And then Scorpion's just nodding and snapping. He's like, "Amen. Yes, yes. You're preaching to the choir over here."
That's good. That's good. All right. Well, I mean, this epi feels over.
Hey, that's my line.
Oh yeah, right.
But it does.
That's your
feel
catchphrase,
over.
not unlike Scorpion.
Yes. Yeah. Well put. Very dour, sad line. Just like, this feels over.
Yeah.
Like a terrible, emotionless breakup.
Yeah. You
know, this feels over.
Yeah. Scorpion. That's his catchphrase. Mortal Kombat was cool because not a whole lot of video games had like talking in it.
Right.
So when he said, "Get over here," that was extra cool on top of like the graphics.
I can imagine it was really amazing when it came out.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But nobody else really had catchphrases. Raiden, you could play as Raiden, like the Thunder God or Lightning God, and he would like fly across the screen and he'd go, and he'd like make this like weird shrieking sound that was almost like a Wilhelm scream.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was like one of the voice things he did.
Raiden wins.
And no one's Australian in the game.
No, Kano doesn't say anything in the game.
It's not like, crikey, you almost got me.
Yeah. Also, it was did you ever see the original Mortal Kombat movie?
Yeah, from the 90s, I've seen it.
So they have that techno song where it's just like Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
They use that song, like they do a remix of it kind of in this, which seems weird because it's like a reboot. They're just like, gotta use this original song still.
I think people
like
love
that.
the song.
Well, exactly. The movie was like fan service to a T, where they're like, "Hey, remember this obscure character? Here he is.
Yeah.
Scorpion, gonna say, get over here."
You know what, though? I would say the same is true of Nomadland. Like, you read the book and you're like, oh, it was so fun learning about all these real people. And then you watch the movie and you're like, oh my God, that's what they look like. And that's what they sound like. And you just meet all this cast of characters all pooing in buckets. And you're like, oh, I wanted to see them poo in buckets. And now I can, because Chloe Zhao made this movie.
Gotta say, not a looker in the bunch.
Nope. Ain't that the truth?
Something about living in a van and crapping in a bucket just kind of like does a
I
number
will
on
say,
you.
hard living, man. Like, that is a rough way to go.
Yeah.
I would say, it would be harder to live in a van than to be a mortal combatant.
I would agree, yeah.
Everyone's very pretty in Mortal Kombat, and in Nomadland, it's just like, oof. Like, the same force that created the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
That kind of like degradation and just like being withered away by time and oppressive wind and water is what's happened to all these people too. And their vans, like their vans are rusting.
Yeah.
They're rotting,
Got to get them repaired.
Terrible. Yeah. You got to fix that van.
That's wild. Yeah. It's like they are like the mountains or the hoodoos of America, just like
Wow.
eroding over time.
If you were to write an article on like nomadic people in these states, you just title it "The Hoodoos of America."
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And then you just are like, who do this? Why do this? Well, any closing thoughts on these films?
I mean, both of them were kind of, Mortal Kombat was fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It was like good, brainless film watching. Nomadland, overrated. So both of these movies are like a good 3 stars in my books. Really, we should have watched Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which was like an abysmal film, but this was a good one to watch because I was hyped for it. So it's like I
Totally.
still wanted to watch it, you know. So
Mhm,
Mortal Kombat,
mhm.
you were okay. Nomadland, also okay.
I feel that.
Also, how do you feel about the just drop in similarities as we go?
I like it. It's fun. I think it's what we want to do naturally. It's going to take some getting used to, but
Yeah.
we're finding our flow.
Yeah.
We're just shooting the shit anyways.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It also meant that we're just like talking about like the history of a film for the entire podcast.
But I do think that's almost more interesting than the comparison. part,
Yeah, you're
in
probably
a way.
right.
like
The hook of the podcast
sort of-
is not the interesting part.
Well, when you put it like that, you're right. That is exactly the situation we're in.
Well,
whatever.
We're categorized as film history on the podcast charts.
Well, shit, there you go.
There you go. So there you go.
I feel like film history, there's so many film history podcasts. Sweet Jesus.
Yeah. And ours is like a fun spin on the genre. Not unlike
Yeah.
Nomadland with the documentary genre, that being, hey, what if documentary had fake stuff in it?
Yeah, what if there was somebody lying to everyone the whole time
Yeah. What if we're
about their dead husband?
pranking you? Pranked you, Bob. Not you, the
Oh,
character Bob.
jeez. Yeah, the other Bob. The more handsome Bob.
What was her name? Slanky? Shanky? What was that woman's
Swanky.
name? Swanky. Slanky?
Shanky?
She's name. Her name is Slanket, like the Snuggie competitor. What was her name? Slanket. Yeah.
She needed one, though. There's some chilly nights.
They pranked Slanky. Oops. Shanky? They pranked. Shanky got pranky.
Swanky.
Swanky got pranky. That's what I meant to say.
Swanky. Yeah. Yeah, jeez. Louise. Oh, my Atlanta.
Okay, well, that was a good epi, I thought. A good return, getting back into it. It's a new year. It's a new era from Justin to Kane.
And just remember, season 1 is really, really good, and look forward to more episodes in season 1.
Yeah, we're still on season 1 here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we will be forever.
Just remember all the episodes we did in season 1 and all the episodes we're going to do in season 1.
Yeah.
Instead of 6 seasons in a movie, it's just 1 season forever.
Great. Well, thanks for
great.
listening, everybody. Don't forget
Thanks.
to follow us on social media from Justin to Kane with the number 2 in the middle there. And on Twitter and Instagram and Letterboxd. And then also go on Apple Podcasts and give us a rating of 5 stars. Any less would be
please.
uncivilized.
So, great.
Great.
Goodbye.
Bye.